Hi, everybody. My name is Bart Jaworski. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Group 11 Resources. I'm a geologist and ex-mining analyst, 25 years experience in the industry. When we first started Group 11 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago now, our vision was to discover the next big zinc deposit within the country. Ireland's well known for its world-class zinc deposits. And the good news is that we have made a discovery. It only took us 7 years, about 100 drill holes and about 20 million bucks, but we did get there in the end. It is now considered the most significant mineral discovery in the country over the last decade. It's called Ballywire, and it's got high-grade zinc and lead. It's punching way above its weight in terms of silver. We just found the copper roots of the system, and there's also germanium and antimony kicking around. So it's a very interesting metal suite. The other thing to really know about us is that we're Glencore and Michael Gentile owned. So both own 14%, both sit on the board. And with Glencore, they are our next door neighbor. They own the giant Palace Green deposit right next to us, which I'll show you in a second. We have about 8% institutional ownership. Cash, we're very well funded with 8.4 million in the till as of the last reported quarter, and we're about 230 million market cap. In terms of the team, very quickly, Michael Gentile, top right there. If you don't follow Michael, I would certainly suggest you take a look. He's a great guy, excellent. We love having him on the board. He only joined about a year ago. Glencore appointee is Franz Bohlmann. He's a finance manager over at Glencore Zinc in Europe. Dan McInnes, he's a longtime mining exec, geologist, ex-CEO of Mag Silver. There's myself. Brendan Cahill is an Irish-Canadian lawyer, longtime mining executive. And Alessandro Bertelli, who's a chartered accountant, also longtime mining executive and associated with the Lundin Group of companies. On the management side, we have Jasmine, our CFO in Vancouver. David Furlong, now he's the guy, him and I basically started the company together, so we've been the engine room of the company for the last 10 years or so. And Mark Holdstock is a famous geologist in Ireland for the fact that he discovered part of the largest zinc mine in Ireland, which is Tara. So he's a great guy to have on board. So in terms of where we are, we're right here in this yellow circle. We're on the Rathdowney Trend. Incidentally, we're just sort of up the road from Lachine and Galmoy. If you listen to Quinton Hennig's talk, Quinton has just put money into the restart of the Galmoy project, followed by the Irish government. The first time in Irish mining history that the Irish government basically spun out a Irish mining fund from their sovereign wealth fund for the sole purpose of investing in mining juniors. Never happened before, and the first investment was Galmoy. So watch that space. We're also 20 kilometers south of Glencore's Palace Green deposit. I'll show you in a second. Before I zoom into that, I just want to mention that Ireland got #1 in terms of policy perception index as part of the Fraser's mining survey, the last published report. That's great. And also the key differentiator for Ireland, key advantage, is that we have a lot of infrastructure in there, and infrastructure is so key for base metal projects. And that has been the reason why these 6 discoveries over the last 60 years in the country have all been built into mines. And that's what's attracted, in large part, the majors. You have the Bolidens, Glencores, Teck, South 32s, Lundin, et cetera, all sort of in Ireland at one time or another. So with all that kind of background out of the way, let's dive into the project, into the Limerick area, into that yellow box. If you do that, you see this picture. Basically, the first thing to mention, everything in blue there is Glencore. Everything in green there is our ground. We have the dominant land position. We're 20 kilometers south of the Glencore's Palace Green deposit. This is one of the largest zinc deposits, undeveloped zinc deposits in the world. 45 million tons, 8.4% zinc and lead. And right beside it, we have our own Stone Park deposit, which is a smaller deposit, albeit shallower and richer. So it's of strategic import to us. But the value of the company especially right now, is our Ballywire discovery, which is there in the circle. So I'm going to just dive into that yellow box and show you basically how it looked back in 1997 to make the point there was hardly any drilling here whatsoever. There was, however, one hit here in 97, 2.5 meters of 6% zinc and lead with a 0.5 meter slug of massive sulfide. They kind of went south. They lost it. Last 2 holes that they drilled, smoke, no fire. They got wiped out in the great financial crisis, and this became open ground. We staked this about 6 years later or so, 2016. Drilled our first hole, got a bit of smoke, no fire, but very close. Came back again in 21, and this is the first time we got a little bit of economic-looking mineralization. 3.5 meters of 12% zinc and lead, 50 grams per ton silver, but also a 0.5 meter slug of massive sulfide, just like that hole a kilometer away from 97, which made us immediately think there could be a bigger system here. So we got excited. Let's step out 300 to 400 meters in all directions and see what we get. First hole basically got a little bit of mineral, not that much. Next hole, much the same. Third hole, a little bit better, and then bang, discovery hole on the fourth hole. This was basically our 100th hole since inception of the company, and we got basically a 60-meter zone of mineralization. Within it was 10 meters of 10% zinc and lead with about 100 grams per ton silver. So that was a fantastic hole, and that's basically how it started. So I'm not going to bore you with all the details. I'm going to skip ahead 3 years and show you basically where we were and where we are now. So quite a difference. We essentially basically have now 2.6 kilometers of robust intercepts of mineralization. And some of the notable highlights, for example, are here 30 meters of 10% with really good silver, 80 grams. Here we have 15 meters of 11% with 122 grams with a bit of copper showing up here. 9 meters of massive sulfide running 24% zinc and lead with 80 grams. And then we really started to hit it out of the park recently, 40 meters of 10% with over 100 grams per ton silver. And then came this hole, which basically doubled our market cap because the market started to price in our copper potential. Here we got 6 meters of nearly 1,000 grams per ton silver and nearly 4% copper. So the market said, okay, this isn't just a zinc story anymore. There's definitely something going on here with the copper and the silver. So if I zoom in on that and just show you a cross-section, this is what it looks like. Basically, the red is the zinc mineralization. The little bit of green showing up there is that 6-meter hit of copper silver. What we did towards the tail end of late last year is for the very first time decided to test for the deeper copper potential here. And so I'm very happy to report that we did hit a lot of copper zones down there for the very first time. All those green vertical or near vertical stripes there are copper silver rich feeder zones. So that's the original one. That was the 6 meters of really good grading copper silver. But then we got on to 17 meters of 35 grams, 0.3 copper, for example. Much the same in the second hole, about 200 meters down, and more of the same over on the right-hand side there. So in effect, we have a very, very interesting copper root system down here. And that was, just to remind you, over here in that section. And that basically brings you up to date up until late last year. And so what we announced this Monday, only a few days ago, is we moved over 400 meters from that section and only 80 meters away from the previous, or 80 meters from the last previous drill fence. And we essentially got this guy, which is actually our best hole ever. So that was phenomenal. We were up 30% when we announced this on Monday. It was basically a 30-meter zone of 15% zinc and lead, over 500 grams per ton silver, and 0.7% copper. But within it was 8.5 roughly meters of essentially 2 kilos of silver per ton and over 2% of copper, along with 20% zinc and lead. A phenomenal hole, absolutely phenomenal hole. So we're loving that. And just to show you a cross-section of it, basically classic economic or classic Irish-style mineralization at the base of the wall, Sortian limestone. The interesting thing about it was that we were actually going for the deeper copper system here, those green shoots. So that's why we drilled this hole. We weren't expecting to hit this massive sulfide this far south. And it's quite interesting because it basically tells us we missed something and there's probably a zone of massive sulfide running south of where we currently drilled. So that's something else. So we'll be basically following up these holes. Stay tuned for these because we're going to be testing for the deeper copper-silver system underneath. So to summarize, basically, we've got 4 rigs turning. There's 11 holes here as numbered that are sort of in the pipeline over the next few months and weeks. And just to leave you with the point, we have a 6-kilometer-long trend defined by these 4 gravity high anomalies, all within the target horizon. And basically everything I just talked about is within one of those 4 gravity high anomalies, the C gravity anomaly, which means we're only effectively 25% of the way through testing our trend. And what we effectively want to do is take what we found, multiply that by 4 times if we're successful at A, B, and D. Basically multiply that again by 3 times because basically we have looks like a parallel trend to the north and to the south, and then take that again and multiply that by 2 if we're successful in finding the deeper copper roots. So there's a 24x type of potential based on the evidence we have so far on the property. That's what we want to do over the next year or 2 with the money that we raised last summer. And then last, this is new slides that we just put together, silver heat map, just to make the point that we are a silver discovery. If we just ignore all the other metals and just hone in on the silver alone, not silver equivalent now, but just silver, This is a very serious silver discovery as well. If you look, that black line there is a contour of 100 gram meters. So essentially 100 grams per ton over a meter, or 10 grams times 10 meters, 100 gram meters, and it's basically over a 3-kilometer trend so far. And you can see we've got some really nice hotspots in there. The red is 750 grams per gram meters. And getting into the purples, you're getting into 2,000 gram meters. So it's phenomenal. And then in terms of gross metal value, that is the gross metal value per metal. And so you can see the yellow there is the silver. And if I zoom in on that bottom part there, just to make the point, there's a serious contribution of silver in this discovery. Thanks very much.